Thank you very much. It's great to be in such an august group. It's great to be with Rebecca and Zubair. I've read your book. I love it. I'm looking forward to your book. I took the wrong one. That's not much I like it. I'm also really glad to be associated with McSweeney's to bring back the book, poetry in particular, as a hardcover, sewn signatures, cloth bindings, exquisite attention to detail. And speaking of detail, we went through several months of back and forth, and then we had Skype sessions, and then we went line by line editing, and when we got through that, they said, it's going to the proofreaders. So, okay, that was pretty good. And proofreaders, that's an annual thing. We got through with that, and they said, now it's going to the fact checkers. And I thought, fact checkers? This is poetry. But at every stage, there was something. And we gained by it. And the title page also has a lovely calligraphy by my wife, Frances, who is also here. So welcome to friends and neighbors, and perhaps new friends, I hope. The totality of facts. The laughing gull that flew behind the fence post and never came out was the beginning. And then a hand smaller than my hand covered Wisconsin with a gesture for explanation. In the afternoon, there are pauses between the words through which commas can grow like daisy fleabane. A fish with an osprey in its back emerges from the sound, and nothing can be learned by more analysis. The book of her hair opens to its bindings, and I leaf through the glorious pages of appreciation, and that's not all. We could have not turned fast enough to catch light and leftovers from so much of what happened. The swift figures behind you like a planet's dark companion, ships entering and leaving the hall closet, the real and imagined, between which there is no difference. Astronauts say their dreams are like Earth dreams, but the people are floating. Last night when Frances answered her dream phone, I was down under the pastry layers of sheets and blue throw. Later she asked, did I hear it? No, I had been orbiting myself, misreading a box in Carol's kitchen, cloudless for cordless. At night when stars fell on Alabama, water goes granular and steps back. Dreams improve us with their thick pastels, revisits in tints. Maybe the astronauts called from their cloudless telephones with news from long distance. Romans invaded Arabia Felix. Columbus discovered Ohio. All of these have titles, but really you could make a book without any titles. I don't think they're a reasonable guide to understanding it. So I do have a manuscript, McSweeney's, that has no titles. But this is called More. We want more, but more is an emergent property. It comes for you out of the same constituents as when you were nothing but them yourself. From the unspoken. The far place, Nichols disappeared with their buffaloes. Most of us never believed the ordinary was that miraculous, the complex reducible completely to a few brash headlines. Look at the inquisitive miles fingers have put on pianos, knocking softly, though nothing opened. Perhaps the pretty demons inside failed to hear the twisting polonaise, hiding as they were behind the curtains in brocade covered with hunting scenes, seeing the parade of notes festive, though death-dressed. One day you discover from the ads suspicious has the same look as discriminating. The greeny tigers have hidden their skins on the leaves of Dieffenbachia. Ideas like onions are dropping their pale slips to the floor, that the garden is a smile around the house and what is hidden by the house. I came to poetry from visual arts. I have no training and no background, But when I went to art school, Rhode Island School of Design, and came across the work of Pound, Elliott, and Olson later on, they seemed to be doing in process the same thing that I was doing with, or attempting to do with painting and drawing. So I've done them together ever since. My graduate degree was with both painting and poetry. And though I produced the work in painting and I was supposed to, my orals committee agreed to it, they never asked me a word about the 49 pages of poems. They just talked about the paintings. Knowing what I know now, that Ruth means compassion, and ruthless is without, and brutal as we expected. That each form broadens and explains the original idea, which can take forever. That nothing is complete till all examples have been outlined and demonstrated, every leaf in Umphalosi. That first Jupiter is smothered by daylight, only to be the first in plain sight, while Mars is in destined Florida, hidden behind the tasty freeze. That nothing's in isolation, but is accompanied by a list of relations. That what will be called miraculous is inevitable and dross common. If I think I've exceeded my limits, they were not. If I say the two magnolias in the yard are like paired lungs from which singing is breath from the leaves, I am nowhere near what the normal will allow. I had no experience of poetry growing up. It was not until I got to art school that I discovered those poets. I mean, I always thought that, there was nobody that I knew that wrote or read poetry. So I figured they were dispersed widely like planets, you know. And now I see that there's, at least in places like San Francisco and others, they gather together. One does not tell the future. It tells us when it arrives. People call, and though I say wrong number, they call back. Last night I saw trampled grass where a deer or refrigerator slept. And with light through lace, like moon through leaves during an eclipse, the whole room rested many times on your shoulder. It was like sitting on my leg, then rising up and feeling the stars pass through each blood cell. You turned and glittered like a mirror ball. I have awakened after working all night somewhere else just to take aspirin for sore shoulders, and thought maybe someone lives here with my name, or the lines in my hands are mapped to my aching other life folded in a fist, since even the moon sometimes keeps its one eye closed above the whole population. Everything following. The weathering of wood, that is beautiful. Fraying, beautiful. A blonde hair caught in the bandage, that also for itself. The becoming in ruins that intrigue us. Everything actual in their exceptional reference, nothing out of context. A hand selecting a marble from a glass bowl, limbs cluttered by daylight, soot at night. Maybe the tub feet are memories of a great hawk grasping the globe it feeds on, or the squirrel stuffing acorns in crevices, as today along the seawall, the flicker coming after removing them. Maybe it was not a great hawk, but a great woodpecker, or an average woodpecker and a great acorn, and everything following something else with beautiful intentions. Nothing is ordinary. Day and night being the same dream from which we never awaken and never actually sleep. When it comes to acknowledgments, I don't really have much to say about acknowledgments because I don't know anybody. Now I've lived for years behind the mailbox and then behind the email, so I don't have a wide reference of people, so my acknowledgments were painfully small compared to my illustrious compatriots. And so I added a little poem at the end to try to fill out what I should acknowledge. I'd like to thank the bird that was not one, but a reflection from the glass door opening outward, then nesting in the bookcase. The many snails at night whose glistening paths showed me that apparently random is purpose without a backbone. My thanks to the house, cracking its knuckles and to blocks of historic old roses in Foley named for archdukes and queens, to house wrens singing as if on a burning floor ladders couldn't reach. A special recognition to the tug Caitlin Oliva for pushing against a vast fugitive blue, and for its painted name I read without glasses. Old radios tuning in stars between stations. I want to acknowledge the influence of things expanding and compressing at different rates. People throwing money into even a dry sluice in sheer expectation that water will hear them. The streamers of wisteria, the philosophies of duration and expectation without which I might never have so cheerfully persisted. I note my debt to the billowing flights of pine whites, jellyfish ascending with a pulsing motion that soothed me, being such a pushover for love. I want to mention my gratefulness for the hours when I was encouraged by bioluminescence, by immanence, intrinsic musics, the marvelous chaotics of weather and suggestible affections, and especially how I never could have done this without everything I've left out, and fragrance, and what distance does to color. Thank you.